Thank you for joining our webinar, Expanding Horizons, Entering the U.S. Market. So my name is Lisa Situ from Hire.io. Today we have a few special guests with us who will be presenting and sharing their knowledge with us. So I want to introduce them one by one. First, I have Nicholas Sharp from Hire.io.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
And then I have Scott Crady. Oh, sorry, Scott Crady, CEO of Magnitude.
Thanks for having me. Welcome, everybody.
And then I have Maria, I might say this wrong, but please forgive me. Maria Honorato, Foreign
Right.
Direct.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. She's the Foreign Direct Investment Program Manager from the California Governor's Office. Thank you so much for joining us today. And then I have Trisha Utterback. She is the International Trade and Investment Representative focusing on the EMEA region from the California Governor's Office.
Hello.
Hi, Trisha. Thank you. And then I have Stephanie Rothman, Senior Investment Consultant from Select USA. Oh, hi. Hi, Stephanie. Okay, just checking your mic. Awesome. All right. Before we start, I would like to ask everyone to, hold your questions until after the presentation of everyone so that we will have time for Q&A at the end, and then we would let the presenters first give you all the information, and then you can have all the questions saved for the end. And then with no further ado, I want to first have our first presenter, Nicholas. So Nicholas, feel free to share your screen and then go ahead. And I just want to inform all our presenters as we switch, you will be able to share your screen and show your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate everybody attending. I know most of you may know me from LinkedIn already, but I really hope after I can get to know you all individually. Today, we're really just going to be expanding your horizons and different information about entering the U.S. and bringing your business here. So who am I? My name is Nicholas Sharp. I've been working at Hire.io for the past 3 years. In that time, I've really focused on helping a ton of different companies enter into the US, from Sandstar, which was an autonomous AI machine, basically, to LongG Solar, and helping even R&D teams at JD.com expand into the US. But what is Hire.io? Hire.io is really more than just a company. We are essentially a gateway to enter the US market. We were founded originally to simplify the US entry for international companies. We're headquartered in Silicon Valley, right in the heart of San Jose, but we do have global offices. We have a few offices in China, the Philippines, and also India. What really sets us apart and any other recruiting company, talent acquisition company, is that we have a tailored approach to help our clients with their unique needs. We offer different services from executive search to direct hire, temp to hire, and even employer of record and EOR service. Our team has grown to over 100 consultants that all specialize in market analysis, HR compliance, and talent strategy. So whenever you're ready to come here, please set up a meeting. We'd love to help you out with that. So the US, you first need to understand when you are coming to the US, it's huge. There are lots of different states, and they all provide different unique opportunities and also challenges. Hire.io, we service all 50 states. We're definitely state agnostic, but we do have a very strong presence in certain regions that really represent those economies and talent markets. From California, where we're headquartered, and a lot of tech talent is here. Seattle and Washington State, all over Texas, from Dallas and Austin, Chicago, the Midwest, Detroit and Columbus, Atlanta and Florida, to, of course, New York, New Jersey with their financial presence, and the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So one thing before you start to come to the US, you do have to have a slight understanding about the distribution of Fortune 500 companies. This will help you really to understand a lot of where those talent markets are, depending on what your strategy is when you enter the US, and how quickly you may want to have those people started with you. You may really want to look in this area. This map right here, all of these individual dots are showing a Fortune 500 company. So the coast have clearly huge presence of Fortune 500 companies. Texas just this year became the #1 Fortune 500 company, a state holder of Fortune 500 companies. So there's a lot of tech talent that has been migrating, particularly to Austin. The size of these dots are really the profit. So you'll notice the huge dot right in the center. That's not many Fortune 500 companies there, but that's Walmart, definitely a significant powerhouse. But 5 top states you may want to consider moving your company to or hiring within, of course, is going to be Texas, California, Silicon Valley, depending on if you want to check out Los Angeles, also huge presence, different types of industries down there. Chicago and New York for any sort of financial services, and tech, but also Illinois, Chicago, Detroit for any sort of manufacturing. So with those, when you do understand where those Fortune 500 companies are, you may start to understand more about where that tech talent may be, the majority of it. So when you look at the top metro areas, they are centered and have most of those Fortune 500 companies. Of course, Silicon Valley has nearly half a million quality tech talent. And then you can go down to New York, and everybody knows Seattle area as well, but Seattle actually has less than LA and Dallas, and that's going to be relative to the population side, and very different industries in those 2 different areas as well. After COVID, most companies had gone remote. So there's been, over the past 3 years, 4 major areas that has really been emerging as tech hubs, new emerging tech hubs. Austin has had 8% growth for the past 3 years and has just over 125,000 quality tech workers, all the way to Denver, which has nearly 150. So when you are looking at why these certain areas may have grown and have had that year-over-year growth, it is primarily because the cost of living there is going to be a bit different. And when people started to go remote, a lot of people started to prioritize their cost of living. So when you start to set up your strategy, while those major metropolitan areas could be key to hiring quick, high-quality talent, it may come at a cost, but you can also look in these regions as well, depending on what industry and specifics you're looking for. So the US talent, there's some certain aspects of it that are highly advantageous. So in the US, we have a ton of talent that are highly skilled in tech, finance, and healthcare. We also have a nearly 17% immigrant workforce. With that, you understand that the best thing about the US is our diversity. All of that leads to more innovation and key aspects in different areas. What's also interesting, depending on where your company is coming from, understanding where those pockets of certain populations, if you need bilingual candidates, comes in handy when you're trying to decide where to build your company. The other great thing here is we have a super strong university system that produces nearly 3 million graduates annually. Out of the top 25 top universities in the world, the US has 18 of them. With hiring US talent, there does come some challenges though. There are significant skill gaps in manufacturing and trade workers. And depending on where you're looking to hire, there is an uneven educational quality between different regions and states. The other thing that you need to really start to take into consideration when you're coming here is there is a rising cost of healthcare here in the US. And so that you need to allocate that for your budget appropriately. So when you're coming to the US, you want to have a good strategy. What are you really trying to achieve when you come here? So we find that there are three types of teams that you may end up trying to have here. You may end up having a combination of them, but essentially it could be an R&D focus, a sales focus, or a warehouse focus. Each of those come with different parts of the team, different budgets, and different regions, and understanding what your need is and what the outcome is going to be will depend on which focus this is. With each of these teams, you will see that there is a yearly operational cost. Of course, the R&D teams with their highly skilled employees are going to be the most cost. But when you look at different regions, the R&D outside of the Bay Area, if you're hiring here, the budget and that you need to allocate to that would not be as significantly different for different regions. And the interesting thing is that a sales or warehouse focus doesn't necessarily matter what region you hire in. The operational costs are actually not tremendously different in what you're looking for. So what I'd really like to go over though is a more recent client of ours. This has been about a year and a half ago. I worked with this AI company out of Germany. They had recently got funding. They did not. Their main purpose, they already had a beta version of their product, but they wanted to enter the US market. They understand the buying power in the US and that this is the largest sales market in the world. So they wanted to bring a combination of teams, a sales and strategy team, and they also wanted to have an R&D presence here, a team of engineers. So when I got this company, they already did not have a business entity registered in the US. What we decided to do is their main focus was going to be the sales. So we needed to hire a specific director of US business development and a marketing manager to partially execute on the business development director's strategy. Since they didn't have a business entity set up yet, we were able to hire these people pretty quickly, but also be their employer of record while their company was registering their business. We also built a team of 8 AI engineers, but what we ended up doing is offering them a service of a temporary to hire. So that way we could take care of their health benefits, and it could also be a little bit more flexible because their language models take a while to understand if they're successful or not. So we wanted to allow the client to be able to hire the actual right talent and determine the success on that. So if anybody has any questions, I'd love to meet with any of you individually and talk about your business needs or any specific strategies that you'd like to employ. But again, if any of you are going to CES, we do have a team that will be there. I'd love to meet you there. And without any other notice, we'll go ahead and pass that on to Scott.
Thank you, Nicholas, and thanks for having me, everybody. Really appreciate you all taking the time to be here and excited to talk through some of what we do at Magnitude. I'm just going to try to pull up my screen here. Great. So my name is Scott Crady. I'm founder and CEO of Magnitude. We're a marketing consulting firm based in New York, as well as we have offices in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. as well. We work with a range of companies, including early stage, all the way from pre-seed to Series A, B, C, as well as even public companies as well. And we do a few things. Really, when you think about marketing, it's across the brand side, brand development, and the other side is really around business development. So we create strategies and tactics around driving brand visibility, whether it be content, media engagement, digital, social campaigns, as well as customer acquisition. And that can be anything across the customer journey, ranging from somebody hitting your website and how you engage with them and creating a journey to help you engage with them, to sales development, business development, training sessions, and interaction with CRM tools and customer engagement tools as well. When we think about EMEA and companies that are investing in the United States or have historically, there's certainly no shortage of large companies that have been in the U.S. and have been here for some time. Here are a few of them. I mean, we all know these company names. They've been in the United States for many years, and whether you're Airbus or SAP, you're a well-known company in the United States that have well-established businesses and client bases. The numbers have really been on the rise. If you look at the past few years, up about 20% in terms of foreign direct investment by EMEA companies in the United States. Over $1 trillion in revenue as of 21. I believe that number has gone up in the past 2 years as well. And roughly 8 million workers in the United States are employed full-time by international companies. So there's a very large presence in the United States among EMEA companies in particular, and they represent a very large part of the economy, especially when it comes to large companies. What people aren't less familiar with is really the influx of companies that are early stage and high growth tech companies. So over the past decade or so, companies that went from early stage seed rounds to fundraising by venture firms to even going public, there's a really broad range of companies that have come from EMEA and really made their presence known in the United States. And they're across industries such as fintech, financial services, entertainment, travel, banking. There's really no shortage of companies there. Some of these are, considered unicorns right now, whether you're a Klarna or a Revolut, Spotify as well. And they've really grown over the past few years in the United States. Why are they coming here is the big question. Well, I mean, the US market is the biggest in the world, right? I mean, 70% of the MSCI index is comprised of United States firms. You look at our market cap alone of companies like Apple or IBM, they're larger than many industrialized companies' market caps combined. It's, in recent years, we've got a number of different regulatory developments. There's been the US-EU trade agreement has been finalized. The cost of importing and exporting goods between the US and Europe and EMEA has come down significantly, really creating a much more favorable environment for European companies and access to the US market for them. So 2024 really presents a ripe opportunity for companies to access and capture share of the US market. You look at foreign direct investment growth since 2000, it's risen every year over the past 2 decades, all the way up to the 3.4 trillion number that I mentioned. They're coming to the United States for a host of different reasons. They can achieve a higher valuation here. They can tap into much larger markets, whether it be customer bases or talent. And then I mentioned the free trade agreements. There have also been a number of other regulatory developments. For example, the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA, which has created a number of different changes around infrastructure development, climate, and change, has really given a lot of money to organizations to really invest in and work on solutions to things like climate problems or industrial problems or infrastructure problems that the country has had. Also there have been other changes or advantages that the U.S. market represents. There's been uncertainty of the euro post-Brexit, which has created more stability for companies when they look at the dollar value. So fluctuations in currency exchange rate creates risks for companies and make it advantageous for companies to be investing in the U.S. Tariffs on imports from Europe add costs and adversely impact companies. So that creates another advantage or reason why companies would want to set up operations in the United States. And I mentioned things like the regulatory environment, which if you're operating in Europe and not here, for example, you have costs associated with labor, intellectual property, and service orienting. If you set up in the United States, a lot of these can come down. The U.S. economy is one of the biggest is probably the biggest in the world. It's growing consistently. It has grown more quickly than that of the UK or Europe, as well as the G7. Exchanges like the S&P 500 have tripled in value since the financial crisis, but the European exchange, such as the Euro Stoxx 50, has really had much slower growth. So that creates another advantageous environment for companies to come here. One area that's really grown in particular is manufacturing. Manufacturers can come here and really begin to split into multiple divisions and locations to get market share. FDI coming into the United States and Europe, they tend to have a greenfield focus. So they typically require a lot more power and factors that figure into their location selection, such as cost of energy, the availability of skilled labor, and logistics infrastructure as well. So we're seeing a lot of manufacturing coming to the United States as well. There's also the whole digitization of the economy, right? Things like AI, Web3 have really created a whole new host of opportunities for companies to come here. There are tax advantages. I mentioned earlier about growing markets and different audience tastes and preferences, the access to capital, which I'll talk about in a few moments, and then talent as well. In particular, if you look at Silicon Valley, and I'll get to this in a moment, Silicon Valley is a huge differentiator for the United States and a big reason why European and EMEA companies and startups in general come here. It's an access to capital and venture network that is really unlike anywhere else in the world. With regard to California and Silicon Valley in particular, we all know about the FANG companies, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, represent a huge portion of the United States economy right now, and a huge ecosystem for companies with which to operate in. In Silicon Valley alone, there's what many people don't realize is there's an enormous infrastructure that is set up for European EMEA companies there, whether it be the existence of consulates or tech agencies, national government organizations. There's entrepreneur programs and universities and incubators specifically focused on EMEA companies as well as the research labs that exist throughout the Silicon Valley. A number of European companies such as Deutsche Telekom and Siemens also have venture arms as well, which do a lot of work in the United States to identify companies for investment and those create opportunities for startups in EMEA looking to come here as well. I want to go through a couple of quick case studies of companies that have made the transition and really enjoyed astronomical growth in the United States. Zendesk is one of them. It was launched in 2007, essentially as a corporate help desk for companies. It started in a Copenhagen apartment, and one of the founders attended TechCrunch Disrupt, which is I don't know if all of you know that, but it's a big technology conference that occurs in San Francisco every year. And the founder really determined there and then that the United States and San Francisco specifically was going to be an area that really was going to allow the company to grow significantly. They moved to Boston. They secured their first venture investor in 2009 and grew to, just under 10 employees. A couple of years after that, they were all the way up to their Series B investment, backed by Benchmark Capital. And some really big names in technology became customers: Dropbox, Uber, Airbnb, and Twitter among them. By 2014, they had gone public on the New York Stock Exchange. And today they're, close to 2,000 employees, over 100,000 customer accounts, and in 160 countries and territories. So that's just one example. Another one is Printful, which is essentially a platform for printing. It's basically, the way to think about it is it's the largest market. The U.S. is really the largest market for print on demand right now. There's companies such as Redbubble and Gelato that have come here and established fulfillment centers. And Printful really wanted to take advantage of that market. So they started out in 2013. They're founded in Latvia, and they decided really quickly that they wanted to be in the United States. Latvia really didn't have the foundation, the infrastructure required to help them grow. So they shifted operations to the United States, quickly grew their revenues. After 4 years here, they grew to 46 million in revenue. And I love this quote by the co-founder, which is really, we want to be something big, and there's no bigger market than the United States for tech companies. I thought this was a good slide to show you, to really just map out the roadmap for a company really from its origination to exit, or shaping as a public company. And it really relates very well to the work we do as a firm at magnitude. A big part of growing as a company is really developing your story and your narrative, sort of who you are, why you exist, what your value proposition is, what solution you're providing to the market, what problem you're solving. And so we work with early stage companies all the way through to Fortune 500 and beyond to really help them lay the foundation for that narrative. And it's really important to be able to do that, because the first thing you'll be doing when you meet with a venture investor is really, what's the problem you're solving, and how does your solution solve that? And who else is doing it, and are you the only one doing it, to really assess the likelihood that you'll succeed, in addition to really what the total addressable market is as well. So we work with companies. Usually we come in around the seed range stage when they've have received some funding. We work with them around things like confirming their market demand and helping to establish financial support for them. We can sometimes work with them to help verify their hypothesis and work through a prototype, for example. They'll then, come advise us really around when they're really trying to get that first venture capital funding, is really when they really come to us around sort of thinking about what that story is, putting together a pitch deck, creating an MVP, looking at what that sizable customer base is, building a pipeline for revenue, and really demonstrating that revenue is sustainable. And then we'll work with them through the growth stage, which is really helping them scale. And there it's really developing a fundamental go-to-market strategy around everything from tactics around content development, to being a thought leader, to setting up a business development program and process, and understanding really what personas and customers they're going after, and helping to execute a plan against that. And then we can work with the company around expansion and really shaping the product mix and focus around how they mature as a company. So for example, are they going after the same customer base that they thought they would when they first started? Are customer preferences changing? Is the market changing? Is the competitive environment changing? And we adapt the marketing strategy and go-to-market plan based on that, and determine a set of tactics and programs around that as well. We don't typically get involved in exit much. I think that what we typically do is help companies grow to a point where they become what they want to be, if you will, whether that be a successful venture-backed company that stays private or ultimately going public at some point. But marketing is a really important part of the roadmap for growth, both in identifying that narrative and really building a go-to-market plan that helps explain your value proposition to the marketplace. So as I mentioned, I don't have my contact information on here, but I'm happy to share that in the chat. I'm Scott Crady, founder and CEO at Magnitude, and we work with a number of different early stage companies, and happy to speak with you offline if I can be of help. I'll turn it over to back to you, Nick, I guess. Or Stephanie.
I think I'm up next, so I can
Yep,
go ahead and
go
get
ahead.
started. Can you hear me okay?
No problem.
Perfect. Okay. Wanted to prevent any tech issues if possible. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Perfect. I'm Stephanie Rothman. I am the portfolio manager for Europe and Eurasia with Select USA. Select USA is a part of the US Department of Commerce, and our primary goal and organization is to help international businesses expand and do foreign direct investment into the United States. We are a geographically neutral organization, and we support businesses expanding to all of the different states across the US. We work with businesses large and small, all the way from the kind of multinationals that previous speakers have mentioned, all the way through to startups across a range of sectors and industries. I think we heard today why the US is a great place, and I think you're all here today because you're interested in the US, you're interested in the great access to venture capital, to the quality of the universities, the R&D opportunities, and the overall opportunity for expanding in the United States. I wanted to talk a little bit about reinforce really some of the FDI, foreign direct investment trends that Scott had spoken about. Here we have a really interesting graph which shows some of the largest sources of foreign direct investment to the United States paired with some of the fastest growing sources of foreign direct investment. So you see a lot of European regions feathered across both of these charts. Some we see it across both, but the United Kingdom, for example, is the third largest source of foreign direct investment into the United States, with Germany the fourth, and you have Europe listed here all the way through really number 11, outside of Japan and Canada being the number 1 and 2 sources of largest sources of foreign direct investment into the United States. And in terms of fastest growing, we see a lot of our Scandinavian regions from Finland to Denmark, Sweden, then more Central European regions from Austria and Germany. A lot of this is attributed, I think, to some of the really great tax incentives and opportunities, as well as, of course, kind of the great business environment that is offered by doing business in the United States. You can see here a global trends of foreign direct investment into the United States. This data goes back to 2022, where the stock of all foreign direct investment to the US was 5.25 trillion. Europe here represents alone 2.9 trillion. So it's an extremely important region and one that sees a lot of value in investing and expanding to the United States, whether it's through the market share, the opportunities for investment, and the great workforce talent and overall business opportunity. The Middle East, you can see here, we attract 77.7 billion in investment into the United States from the EMEA region. And I wanted to do another little breakdown of Europe, just to showcase where exactly in Europe some of the foreign direct investment is coming from. Of course, as mentioned, UK and Germany are the 2 largest players, but France is at about 360.2 billion. And you can see here some of the other players as well. This chart also breaks down some of the different industries and sectors which are represented by where the most amount of foreign direct investment is coming from. So manufacturing is very much the major player across all countries investing in the US. I also wanted to take a minute and talk about the startup ecosystems. Select USA, I had mentioned, as geographically neutral. So what I wanted to showcase is that the US offers opportunities across the United States. The different states can offer really fantastic opportunities, whether it's access to particular workforces, particular clusters of an industry, of a sector, opportunities for investment. And each state has their own strategy and opportunity for attracting foreign businesses and a slew of different incentives and opportunities to make investing in those regions attractive. For instance, I just wanted to point out our resource Startup Link has indicated that 8 US cities are among the top 20 globally from across the world in terms of top startup ecosystems. And you can see here, of course, we've mentioned San Francisco a few times. You see Los Angeles on this top 8 list, New York City, Boston. I know we had mentioned Texas as well as Seattle, but you also see here Washington, D.C. and Chicago and Boston listed. And here's the list in a slightly different format. Startup Blink measures their startup ecosystems on 3 different measures, sort of a quality score, an estimate of how much of the startup ecosystem is available in these different locations. For instance, how many startups, how many co-working spaces, how many accelerators, how active is that ecosystem. It also measures the quality and how effective is that startup ecosystem at driving innovation, as well as it's also an indicator of the kind of local business environment, the infrastructure for and access and ease of doing business overall. So you can see here this ecosystems ranking lists the kind of general startup ecosystems on a national rank as well as a global rank. And this links back to the last slide I had shared, but shows it in a slightly different way with that global ranking. And I wanted to showcase a couple of different startup ecosystems. Here's the general kind of all startup ecosystems. And next up, we have software and data industry. So you see a lot of similar players, and it's interesting to see how it reflects across that kind of national as well as the global ranking. And a lot of this is kind of reinforced by previous speakers, which is fantastic. And then next up, I wanted to showcase energy and environment. This shows, again, the national and global ranking, very similar industries, but here you have Houston, Texas showing up. Miami and Florida is popping up in this one. Chicago, we saw in a couple of others, but it's listed here. You can see the strength of these rankings on both the national level, but also within the global. So across all global innovation centers, all of these ecosystems are still ranking in the high top 20s. Next up, I also wanted to indicate health tech startup ecosystems. Again, a lot of the same players, but really interesting to start seeing some of the different ones. And what this showcases is that the top locations you might be interested in investing are always going to be fantastic ecosystems. There's always going to be a lot of access to talent, a lot of access to resources, but with that can mean that it might be very expensive. And so sometimes looking or considering other locations can be attractive in terms of cost. And sometimes these other locations might be able to offer more incentives, more opportunities, or talent at different costs. And it might be an attractive investment location for a different reason. And when I speak investment, or now it's more in terms of foreign direct investment, so expansion to the United States and creating jobs. While we're talking about tech hubs, tech ecosystems, I wanted to mention really quickly a recent US government initiative that's very exciting for the tech environment. It's called the Tech Hubs Program. And the Biden administration announced this Tech Hubs administration earlier in 2023. And it's a fantastic opportunity where 31 regional centers from across the United States are going to be given opportunity and funding to build up these ecosystems to drive innovation, to create jobs, to create an attractive place for a number of different sectors. So for instance, the autonomous systems, quantum computing, clean energy advancement, semiconductors, and there's quite a few more. I've included a link here so you can read a little bit more about it. And I've also included a couple of examples of what some of these tech hub designees are going to look like. So while this may take time, the expected timing is that these will be built up over the next 10 years or so. These could be really interesting locations to consider and look at as you're deciding where to invest and expand in the United States, because it might indicate where a lot of job creation, innovation, and potential funding might come within these particular sectors, industries, and regions. So all of that to say, very excited to share a little bit more about what exactly is Select USA. I know I had said we're part of the US Department of Commerce. We are a free resource for foreign companies looking to expand to the United States. I'm based at headquarters in Washington, DC, and I work really closely with our teams at the US embassies and consulates across Europe. I have portfolio manager colleagues who cover regions outside of Europe and Eurasia, including the Middle East and Africa. And we are here to speak with companies and help be an advisor and counselor as you look to expand to the United States. We support companies in a number of different ways through actionable information, connections to different economic development organizations, which is what we call US states, as well as helping companies navigate the federal system. Breaking down a little bit more into how we help companies. An example of some of the information that we're able to share and provide are through our Select USA Investor Guide. This is a great sort of 101 of where to begin when you're looking to expand to the US. What do you look at? What do you consider? What is the checklist of where you even need to begin? Each of these chapters has been commissioned by a service provider who's very keyed into the foreign direct investment and expansion ecosystem. And so it's a really great sort of beginner resource if you're not sure where to begin. We also have available on our website and by contacting myself or any of our colleagues, a library of fact sheets and resources, which we have for every US state and territory. We have these for foreign markets. So whatever country you're coming from, if you're interested in seeing what the foreign direct investment looks like, we have fact sheets available for you as well. We have these by industry, and then we also have commissioned research reports that are run by our team at headquarters, as well as we have available customized research for foreign companies. So if you're serious about your investment in the US and think data and research might be of interest and might be helpful as you're looking to expand to the US, we're able to do these customized research reports for clients at no cost. And I've included here an example of some of the kinds of information that we can provide. Well, we're not here to be a business development service or support for companies. We're here to help you understand the landscape across the US, whether it's at a state level or a more local level. If you come to us and you have 2 or 3 states you're already considering, we can help you compare different information across the qualifiers that are most important for you. If you're not sure where you're interested in locating it, we utilize a tool called our cluster mapping tool, which can help indicate where there's a high cluster of a workforce or a high cluster of businesses in your particular industry and sector as a starting point. We're always happy to have these conversations and showcase the cluster mapping tool as you're looking to make the decision for where to invest in the US. I'd mentioned this a few times, but we're always happy to be a resource to connect you with the US states, the Economic Development Organization, so that you can have detailed conversations about further opportunities of expanding, where in the states to expand, what kind of opportunities or incentives, what kind of resources are available, and where to locate within those states as well. And then I had mentioned earlier that we are also able to act as a resource to help foreign businesses navigate the federal system and connect you with a number of different federal organizations, whether it's the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, etc. And I can't speak about Select USA without mentioning very quickly our annual event, the Select USA Investment Summit, which is June 23rd to 26th in the Washington, D.C. area. The program brings together everything we do throughout the year in one place where you can meet all of the US states in an exhibition hall. There's a ton of networking opportunities where you can meet with states, you can meet with other foreign businesses, you can meet with federal agencies to talk about how to scale and expand to the US. There's workshops and sessions on an industry-specific level, and there's Select USA tech-specific sessions, which I think is most relevant for our group today. I can share this with the group a little bit later, but wanted to talk briefly that through our Select USA Tech program at the Investment Summit, you have the opportunity to apply to pitch at one of our 4 different pitch sessions. That is a great opportunity to get feedback, to showcase your product or service to a group of US-based tech experts, whether they're from VCs, accelerators, incubators, all across that tech ecosystem. Within our tech programming, we also have informational sessions and networking opportunities. And you can see some of those listed here. Of course, US expansion and fundraising, the global tech landscape, and a lot of really great opportunities to hear from tech companies from around the world who have expanded to the US, the challenges and the opportunities and what they faced during that process as well. And then I wanted to briefly mention, of course, within our tech program, we also offer Select Global Women in Tech, which is one of my favorite programs. It's a mentorship program for female founders who are interested in being partnered with a US-based mentor to learn from that mentor, to ask any key questions and have that opportunity to engage with a US-based expert who can help them face with different challenges, whether it's how to expand to the US or different kind of marketing challenges they're having with the US, or with having challenges with their pitch decks. Or it can be kind of as big or small, and it's a fantastic year-long program that kicks off on site at the Investment Summit. There's no additional cost or fee to participate in the Women in Tech program. It's part of attending the Select USA Investment Summit. So I've included my contact details here. If you have any questions at all, if there's any way that Select USA can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be thrilled to work with you. And now I am beyond thrilled to hand off to Maria and Trisha from GoBiz, California.
Hello, thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate that. Let me just share my screen here and we'll get started. Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Trisha Utterback. I am the International Trade and Investment Representative for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. We love long titles and acronyms, so please speak up if I drop an acronym that you don't recognize. I'm happy to talk that through with you. We work with international companies to help them grow here in California. Today, to get started, I'd like to share with you some information about why California is such a great state for cutting edge businesses and the resources that we have to help support international companies, as well as our incredible innovation ecosystem that we have here. Our agency, let's see here. Okay, our agency serves as the state's leader for job growth, economic development, and business assistance. We have multiple teams that serve California businesses and communities, as well as international companies. I'm on the International Affairs and Trade team, where we work to promote California exports, but also attract foreign direct investment. So attract companies like yourself to come here to California and kind of share in some of the excellence we have here. We also have teams that cover business investment services, permit and regulatory assistance, small business support, and more. So why California? Why should you be interested in our state? I think California is well known for our natural beauty and quality of life, but we are more than just our good looks. California is poised to become the 4th largest economy in the world, and we have some unparalleled advantages for companies seeking the right location. California has a dynamic economy that extends well across our state. We have world famous cities like LA and San Francisco. We also have regional excellence like Northern California with renewable energy, Central Valley for agriculture and ag tech, Southern California for biotechnology, and the southeastern part of our state for lithium. California is large. We are one of the biggest states in the United States and the most diverse. We have about 840 miles of coastline in 58 counties. So this just kind of gives you a brief overview of some of the resources and infrastructure in our state. Just to give you a frame of reference, it would take you 14 hours to drive from the top of California, Eureka, all the way down to the bottom, San Diego. As a global leader for cutting-edge innovation, higher education, climate science, and trade and logistics, our state garners a lot of interest from international businesses. California is the #1 state for jobs supported by foreign direct investment. So international companies coming to California and employing Californians, FDI plays a key role in ensuring California's economic growth and prosperity, spurring innovation, driving exports, and creating high-paying jobs. More than 635,000 California jobs are supported by over 18,000 foreign-owned businesses. The size of our economy means that we don't rely on any one industry. We have a lot of activity in several sectors, as you can see here. Biotechnology, we have some of the world's top universities, and we have earned National Institute of Health grants. Ag tech. So our Central Valley is a big producer of agricultural technology, and we have some of the nation's top agricultural sciences universities. With technology, California's tech workforce is 1.9 million individuals strong, nearly twice as many as the next ranked state. Advanced manufacturing, California has over 35,000 manufacturing firms and employs over 1.3 million Californians. And then clean energy, I think we're well known for. We are the nation's first economy-wide. We set the first economy-wide greenhouse gas limit, and we're the first climate emission standards for cars. And we've committed to 100% renewable energy by 2045. With that, I will pass it on to my colleague, Maria.
Thank you so much, Tricia, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Maria Honorado. I'm the Foreign Investment Program Manager at GoBiz. I know we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to move quickly. Some of the previous speakers have emphasized why the United States is so appealing for startups. And of course, California is very famous for our startup ecosystem. We have incubators and accelerators that can help global startups break into the California marketplace. Many of our universities have opportunities for industry partnerships that can be tailored to the needs of your business. We have a statewide network of small business development centers, which provide free one-on-one consulting for growing companies. And of course, we have a whole host of different types of networking opportunities, conferences, events, and more. Next slide, please. As Stephanie had noted, California is very proud to be the top startup ecosystem in the world, Silicon Valley. And that's just one very well-known region. We also have other hubs throughout the state, Los Angeles, San Diego, Santa Barbara, and Sacramento, the state capital as well. It's really an unmatched location to grow a business. And there's a variety of factors that inform that. A very important one, of course, being that we are the #1 global location for venture capital deal flow, with a lot of deal flow in some of the most up-and-coming sectors globally. Also a leader in exits, and really a leader in creating and growing and developing the businesses that are at the very cutting edge in these types of industries. In addition to the kind of existing ecosystem support for businesses, at GoBiz, we have a lot of services to help companies grow. We provide free and confidential site selection services. We can make introductions to our local partners statewide who know their business communities best. And we can help with permitting and regulatory support based on industry. We also help businesses understand incentives that they may be eligible for as they are looking at expansion. I'm just going to name a couple of incentives here, but if you have any interest or questions about what incentive your business might be eligible for, we would be more than happy to connect. One of our most popular incentives is our California Competes tax credit, which is an income tax credit available to businesses looking to locate in California or stay and grow in California. We also have a partial sales and use tax exemption for manufacturers. We have an employment training panel, which provides funding to offset the costs of upskilling your workforce. And we have a research and development tax credit. We have put together a variety of resources to help businesses navigate existing incentives. One of these is our business investment guide, which is updated annually, and which is a comprehensive directory of all the incentives we have in the state. We've also put together an international investor starter packet. which walks through the first steps to getting started in California, including how to register your business with the California Secretary of State, how to open a U.S. bank account for your company, and more. Our office and the state in general welcomes businesses from around the world. We have compiled these resources because we want to support expanding companies. All of our services at GoBiz are available to foreign-owned companies, and better yet, all of our services are completely free. We understand that starting a business overseas is a very complex process, and we're here to help with permitting support, with finding the right location, with incentive navigation, and with really helping businesses navigate the very many resources available to support them. Thank you all so much for joining this webinar and this important conversation. And we really look forward to continuing to engage with you and support your next steps in our state. I will turn it back to the Hire IO team.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd like to go ahead and open it up for any sort of questions. If anybody wants to add a question to the chat, and I can kind of shoot that out, and whoever's best to answer, maybe if anybody has any questions, free to go ahead and add.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions for all of our presenters, please go ahead and add a comment, and then we will direct those questions, and those with the knowledge will give you the answer that you want.
We're also happy to stay in touch if you have any questions down the line. If anything comes to mind later on, we're available.
Absolutely, and we'll try to get out a video of this to everybody. So if you need to review it or share it with your teams as well, any sort of information, we're happy to make sure that you get that.